Hey everybody, Justin Watch Movies here. Time for the best list of 2017. If this is the first time on my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you guys like Blu-ray videos, free Funko Pops, trailer reactions, ranking videos, and list videos like this, consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification down below so you guys don't miss a thing. We're here today to talk about my favorite 10 films of 2017. These aren't, I would say, the best films of the year. I would say that they are probably the films I would want to watch the most throughout the year. These are, when I think about it, these are the films that made me the happiest. These are the films that I really enjoyed and I consider to be the best of the year. I consider them to be my favorite films of the year. Of course, there are a lot of films I just did not see. I didn't get to check out Phantom Thread, The Post, Molly's Game, and Florida Project. Those were 4 films that I really wanted to check out before making this list, but I just didn't have enough time. So here we have my top 10 best films of 2017. I'm not going to do any honorable mentions this time around. I'm just going to jump into my top 10 favorite films of 2017. Remember, this is my list. This is just my opinion on what I think are my favorite films. You probably have a different opinion, so leave your list down below. So let's get this video started with number 10. Call Me By Your Name is a very sweet film. It's a very honest and truthful film about a young boy, Elio, and a visitor from America who comes to visit the family in Italy. They develop this relationship. It's a very touching relationship. It's really well done. It's really well handled. The relationship blossoms into something very sweet. And the progression from barely knowing each other to kind of really falling in love was a sweet journey. The Disaster Artist was a very inspiring film, and it made me look at The Room a little differently. It made me look at Tommy Wiseau's life and find that this man had a lot of passion going into this movie that is regarded as one of the worst films of all time. And I've watched it, and it is pretty bad. But watching the behind the scenes making of this movie and seeing James Franco put a lot of effort into Tommy Wiseau writing the movie, directing the movie, and starring the movie, it adds another level to The Room and made me really understand The Room as a movie and decisions behind making this movie. I thought The Disaster Artist was really funny. It was very inspiring. It was kind of sad at times too, how people didn't really believe in Tommy Wiseau, but he believed in himself. And it was a cool movie to tell. We don't get many movies like this where you watch a movie about making a movie. I think it's a really cool concept, and it's cool to see The Room in a different way. Blade Runner 2049 is a visual masterpiece. It is a stunning looking film, and on top of those great visuals is a really intriguing long storyline that I was invested in from beginning to end despite this really long runtime. And I remember sitting in the theater just being so enthralled and floored by watching this movie and what I was witnessing. It wasn't focused on building up on Blade Runner, it was focused on building this new world. And I think Ryan Gosling's character was an interesting one. Pretty much anybody involved in this film did a great job. I love the storyline, I love the visuals, it was a masterpiece, and I can't wait to check it out again. Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is a dark comedy that I really enjoyed. I loved how this movie focused on comedy and also drama as well. There was a lot of moments where I was impressed that they were having some comedic moments, and then it turned to a dramatic side, and it was so quick and so abrupt. And my emotions during those moments really shifted as well, and it caught me by surprise. And I was on board with the comedic moments and the darker things they touched upon in that movie. The performances are some of the best ever for these actors and actresses. Frances McDermott gives her best performance ever, and Sam Rockwell also gives a very outstanding performance. Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri was a funny film, but it was also a depressing film as well. And both of those elements work so well. Pennywise the Dancing Clown has always been kind of a creepy character, and although this new 2017 movie is not very scary, I do think there's so many other elements that do really work. I do think that Bill Skarsgård gives a terrific performance that he gives into this role that works so well. The Losers Club is probably one of my favorite moments in this movie. They all have different personalities, but when they all get together, it really does work, and they have some hilarious moments. This movie has some very funny lines that reminds me a lot of when I was younger and how you kind of just rip on your friends, but it's all in good manner and all in good heart, and you just kind of have fun with that. But I like how this movie brought the kids together, and they were facing their fears over something that is truly terrifying to kids, and how he can kind of change things up to terrify those kids. It had so many elements that worked. The cinematography was great, the makeup was terrific, and I'm so happy that this movie was a box office smash, and I can't wait for the second one. Greta Gerwig's directorial debut with Lady Bird is one of the best coming-of-age stories I have seen in years. This is a typical coming-of-age story where she falls in love with a boy. She's butting heads with her mom. There's a lot of elements in this movie that I feel like I've seen before, but Lady Bird does stand out on its own. It's not afraid to shift its characters' views or shake up their relationships. Greta Gerwig definitely adds her own style. She's a very quirky actress, and I love her movies like Frances Ha and Mistress America, and she adds her own style into this movie. Saoirse Ronan gives probably the best performance she's ever given, and she's a little naive at times, but also mature, and I love both of those elements of her. This was a fun film, but also a very honest film at that, and this is easily probably one of the best directed films of the year. Mother was a very polarizing film. It kind of was divided. You either really liked Mother or you just really hated Mother, and you said it was the worst film of the year or the worst film you've ever seen. But when I watched Mother, every single scene built up on each other, and every single scene increasingly got more and more involved with the plot and more chaotic. And as the movie went on, my interest for this movie just grew and grew. I wanted to know what this movie was about. I wanted to know how it was going to end. And as the movie got more and more chaotic and they added more and more characters, the suspense grew and grew inside me to where I just was so involved in this film. I loved when I watched this movie and I was trying to piece things together, and I loved the metaphors for everything in this movie. Mother really surprised me, and I loved watching this movie. I understand why people may not like this film, but it is easily one of the most polarizing films I've seen this year. It's one of the most interesting films I've seen this year, and one that really challenged me and made me think a lot about the film. Wind River was a very chilling film, and I was happy to see this movie because Wind River Reservation in Wyoming is where my family is from. I'm Native American. A lot of my family members come from the Wind River Reservation in Wyoming. So I was happy to see a film that was about Wind River despite it being a murder mystery, and the murder mystery was written so well. This is directed by Taylor Sheridan, who had written Sicario and Hell or High Water. The filming locations were very cold and there was a lot of snow, and filming in that location adds a lot to this murder mystery because it makes you feel cold inside. It made you feel depressed when watching this film. Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen give really good performances and add a lot of depth to this movie. Jeremy Renner has a connection with the person that was murdered in the beginning of this film, and there's a lot of emotions in him. And there's a barrier between him and the people that are trying to help him solve this case. It was a murder mystery that was written so well that you were invested in the storyline. You were curious about who was the murderer, and it all led to a very fantastic ending. The Shape of Water is like a modern-day fairy tale. It is beautifully crafted by Guillermo del Toro with stunning visuals and a character that didn't say a lot but also told a lot by her mannerisms and the way that she handled herself. Sally Hawkins played a character that was mute and felt like she was missing parts in her life, and the creature that this lab had found was going to fill that void for Sally Hawkins' life. The makeup on Doug Jones was outstanding and some of the best I have seen this year. When watching The Shape of Water, I fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with the storyline. It was like a classic monster movie that was told for a new generation. It was a beautiful love story. Even though it was a little weird sometimes when a monster and a woman are kissing, but it's still all beautiful and a really well told story. Alright guys, we're getting down to my favorite film of 2017. This isn't the best film I have seen, but no other film in 2017 made me more happier than watching this film. It is a film I wanted to see over and over again. It is the film that I adored, and it was pure movie magic. My favorite film of 2017 goes to The Greatest Showman. Is my favorite film of 2017. And when watching this film, I was so happy. I felt so joyful when watching this film. Every single musical number worked so well, and the cast involved in this film put a lot of dedication into their choreographed dance sequences, the musical numbers. Every scene in this movie just made me feel so happy. No other film in 2017 made me more happy than The Greatest Showman. I have listened to the soundtrack repeatedly since watching this movie. I cannot find one flaw in when watching this movie. I know it's not historically correct, but it's a movie and I want to enjoy myself when watching movies, and I enjoyed myself. And this is the perfect film for 2017. I love musicals, and The Greatest Showman is easily my favorite film of 2017. So there you guys have it, all my favorite films of 2017. What are your favorite films from 2017? Make sure to go to my channel and check out my worst list. I'll leave the link down below for that. And if you guys like 2017 movies and movie montages and mashups, consider checking out my 2017 movie mashup. The link will be down below for that. Thank you guys for making 2017 the best year for me on YouTube. Let's make 2018 even better. You guys are the best as always. This is Just Watch Movies, and you stay classy, YouTube.